Cassie, and tonight we're going to be taking an old baby wipe container and turning it into a fun, festive 4th of July craft. So the first thing that we're going to do is take our baby wipe container and we're going to take the lid off of the top of it, okay? So I've already done that. I have the lid here. And before you spray paint it, which I've already done as well, I want to point out one thing. If you open this on the inside here, you actually want to take a razor blade and cut out that, it's kind of a soft, meshy plastic piece that you pull the wipes through. You don't want that in here because this is going to be a container maybe for napkins or even cookies or cutlery, something like that. So you want the hole to be big enough that you can get your hand down in there. Once you've done that, then you want to come back and spray paint it. And you can spray paint it whatever color you want to match your fabric. I've picked out this Americana fabric here with the deep navy, so I decided to spray paint my top a dark navy. And when you spray paint it, one thing to keep in mind is that you really want to let it dry. So I recommend letting it dry overnight or at least 6 hours. If not, it's really easy just to get fingerprints and indentions and things in it. I know that I've gotten antsy several times with spray paint and regretted it later because I had to start back over. So you want to stay away from that. It'll save you some time in the long run. So you're going to spray paint your lid. You've got that all done. You set that aside. You're letting it dry. And we're going to move on to the container itself. So the first thing that you want to do is take your container and you're going to take a little bit of Mod Podge here. Mod Podge is really great when you're working with fabric and you want to stick it to plastic or wood. Mod Podge is a really good answer for that. So you're going to take a brush, any kind of brush is fine really, and you want to put a nice just thin layer on your container. You don't want it to be too thick. If it's too thick, then it will soak through your fabric and it will show up. It'll obviously turn your fabric a little bit of a darker color. So you just want it to be definitely coated, but a thin layer. And one thing to keep in mind with this is that you can always go back and add more. So don't be worried that you don't have enough on there, because you can go back and you can add more. You know, if your fabric's not sticking, then you can kind of peel it back and work those areas that needed a little bit additional. So once you get your first coat on there all the way around, then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric and apply it. Now I've already pre-cut my piece of fabric that I'm going to use to save a little bit of time, but I got a half a yard of fabric and that was more than enough. I really think that you could go with probably a quarter of a yard. You just want to make sure that you have enough lengthwise to get all the way around it. So what you want to do is you want to just stick this right on there. You just want to leave enough along the top that you've got some room to cut it off so that you can have a nice clean edge around there. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to kind of spread it around and push it down. Okay. The main thing that you want to pay attention to is just that you don't have any wrinkles in it or folds in your material and that it's going on nice and smoothly. I don't really think it's a big deal if it's not perfectly straight either. That's kind of the great things about most of these crafts that I try to do, is just make them where they're fun, and if you mess up, we can cover it up, we can fix it later. It's not really a big deal. Okay, so once you've done that, this is going to be the front part here, the part that is really nice and straight. The back is not as level, so we'll keep that, you know, the part that would be facing the wall or whatever, okay? So once we have that done, I do want to go ahead and put a little bit more of the Mod Podge on the back side here so that I can adhere the fabric over top of the other piece. So we're just going to put some right across there like that. Bring this piece on over. And we can trim this up if we decide that we want to. And then I'm just going to fold that edge down so I get a nice clean edge. Make sure that's tight. Continue to put a little bit on there. And remember, like I said, you can't mess this up. You can always go back and add ribbon or add decoration or add something to cover up whatever you don't like. So we're going to leave this sit for just a second, just enough time to let that get nice and stuck there so that we can cut this part off. While that is setting up, I want to go over to back to the lid. So on this one, I actually have the name brand still on the lid. Some of them that are not name brand, they don't have anything on there, but I still recommend doing something with this part just to make it look a little bit more finished and a little bit less like a baby wipe container. And be creative. I mean, this is as much as you want to put into it. I really like to use stuff that I already have lying around when I'm doing a project. So I had some of these tags, and I had a stamp that said celebration, which I think is fine for the 4th of July. So I literally just stamped it with that, and that's what I'm going to put on there. You could cover this with fabric if you want to spend a little bit more time. You could get, you know, a 4th of July emblem of some sort, a flag, and put on there. Whatever you choose. So the main thing to keep in mind is that you want it to be something that you can stick to the plastic. So I do recommend something like paper or fabric. That would be good to stick on that surface. And you want to use glass bond for this because glass bond is really great for slick surfaces. You know, things like Mod Podge or even some of those other like Loctite, they don't work real well with a real slick surface. So you want to use a little bit of glass bond. So we're going to just put that along the back side of my tag here. And then you just want to put a little bit on where you're going to be applying it on your container. Okay. Now you want to let that set for about 1 to 2 minutes is kind of the rule of thumb. So it'll get nice and tacky and it will stick together better. So I'm going to set this one back over here by that. We're going to let that sit and we're going to go back to this piece here. So now that this is sat for a second, I'm going to take my razor blade and I'm just going to go right along the top edge here and just cut off that excess. Again, keep in mind, we are going to be putting ribbon along the top here. So if something gets messed up, it's just not really a big deal. We can cover it up. One other thing to keep in mind, these plastic containers are pretty flimsy. So if you push too hard when you're cutting, you can cut right through it. So you'll want to be a little bit careful of that when you're going along here, but you have to be pushing pretty hard to get all the way through there. So we're just going to keep going around our top edge until we get it all. And while I'm doing this, I thought I'd go ahead and tell you, you know, I decided to do a 4th of July container just because the holidays are coming up. It's right around the corner. I thought it would be fun. But you know, you really could do this with anything. Even if you wanted to cover the baby wipe container that you're going to keep in your baby's room. So whatever theme you have in there, maybe getting some of that type fabric and covering it. Or I thought that this might be good for like dryer sheets in your laundry room. So maybe getting some fabric that would match that. I mean, really anything. Or if you wanted to be more just all summer serving, then just getting some fun summery, maybe a floral fabric that you could use all summer long would be good as well. So just keep working along that edge. We're almost done with this part. And like I said, you don't have to get this perfect. This doesn't have to be super neat because we're going to use the Mod Podge again and stick it up there in the very corners there of the top. Pull that off there. And then when you get these pieces along the front, then you can just kind of go through and then shave them off. This is probably the most time-consuming part of your whole project, so this is pretty easy. I always think these type of things really look nice on your tables too. When you are having, you know, guests over and doing a celebration, when you take the time to do these little extra special touches, I think it looks really nice. Or if you're going to a party and you take something, this is something nice that you can take your cookies or whatever in and give it to them as kind of a gift for having you over as well. Okay, I think we're just about done with this part. Cut that part a little bit more Just make sure you use a lot of caution with your razor blade too. If you don't work with these a lot, you know, you want to be careful. Okay, so we have that edge off there, and you can see it's a little bit rough. So this is where we're going to go back with the Mod Podge and kind of just run it across that top border just to seal up any loose pieces of fabric that are sticking out there. And you want to make sure it's right along the edge so it doesn't ruin your fabric or look bad down along the bottom. But we're going to run that just right across the top. Okay. And this is how I was telling you, if you have, you know, you needed to put a little bit more, you can go back on and we can kind of do that. So that's what we're going to do here. Again, I'm going to fold this edge under. And run this back along here. Now when you get to this part, this is where the glue gun comes in handy. When you get your big pieces of fabric like this, I like to go ahead and use the glue gun to hold those down. It's a lot stickier and holds a lot better for a small part like this, like a seam or something. So just run a little bit down along there, press that down, you can get that nicer seam there. And then same way at the bottom. So now that we have it all the way around the edge, we want to kind of fold this under just like we were folding a present. So fold that down. And then again, we'll use the hot glue gun for our seams here. So just run some right along there. Put that down. Same way right there. And then we'll just kind of fold this down. And remember, nobody's going to see the bottom, so it doesn't matter what that looks like, at least in my opinion. You can get as detailed as you want with these and spend as much time as you would like. I just think the simpler it is and the quicker it is, the better off, more time you'll have for other things. Okay. So now we have our base pretty much done, and you can kind of go back afterwards and seal these down a little bit tighter and make them a little bit better. So now that the base is done, we're going to come back. This has had more than enough time to get tacky. So we're going to stick that tag right to that spot that we talked about there in the center. So like I said, I'm just putting a little tag there that says celebration, but you can put anything that you would like there. Okay. So now, we're almost done already. We're going to take a piece of ribbon and take this around the top here. And we are going to tie this guy up. The closer you wait to the holidays, the cheaper that you can get all of this. I just went and got my fabric and stuff, my 4th of July, just a couple days ago, so it was already 30% off. So with this being such a quick project, I definitely recommend waiting and seeing if you can get that at a discounted price, if it's going to be kind of a single usage. So there again, just a simple bow across the front. You can kind of wiggle this around and center it however you need to. Get that where you want it. Tie that a little bit tighter. Now once you get your ribbon kind of where you want it and you have your bow, this part I like to use the hot glue for too, just to kind of give it a final holding in place there. So start with our bow in the center and the front and stick that right there. Then at that point you can kind of go around the edges and hold each side into place by just sticking a little spot. Okay, then we're going to slide around to the back side here, do the same thing. And then around to this side. Alright, so now that we're done with the ribbon, we're almost done. I actually cut a little piece of fabric here extra in case you are doing cookies or cutlery and you want the bottom to have something in it. I just took it, since I had the extra fabric, I just took a piece and cut it. You just want to fold the edges under so it looks nice, and then just kind of set that right down inside there so that you'll have that in the bottom, and it'll look nice if, you know, when someone goes to look inside there. So that part's done. The only thing that we have left, if you want to do a little bit more detail to the lid to make it look a little bit nicer, you can take some of that decorative tape that I've used before. Like I said, I'm all about reusing, you know, stuff that you already have lying around. I think just is great. So if you want to make this a little bit more decorative, you can take this and you can wrap it around the edge here of your container. So just kind of run it right along the top part there. I picked this one because it looks kind of like the Declaration of Independence writing there. Makes it look neat. And you can do that, you know, wherever you want. Maybe you want to run it all the way around the side. Maybe you just want to do it in the front. That is totally up to you how you want to do that. I am going to only run this around the front side of it and then cut it because the edges are a little bit hard to do when they're rounded like that, and you don't want to mess it up. So you can kind of run it around and then pick back up and start on the side once you got that front piece done there. And this is the part I was talking about. If you don't let this really get dry, this is where you'll really start running into problems when you're trying to handle it and do stuff with it. Okay, we got that wrapped all the way around, so I'm going to cut this piece off here. Fold that right under. Put that on top there. And this has got the piece that you're just going to snap back inside there on the back. And we are all done. Just that simple. So once you're done here, you've got a great little container that you can use on the table. I had another one over here that I did, you know, napkins on the top of, and a little different color there. So you've got a great little container that you can sit out on the table. You can put napkins, keep them from blowing away in. Make a nice little centerpiece for your 4th of July table. Or remember, if you want to do this for a room in your house or for your baby's room, you can do the same principle and store other things in it. And that's it. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.